Welcome, as always. Let's speak now to Alan Howson, who's Executive Chairman of the Independent Ambulance Association. It's an organisation that represents the private ambulance industry. Also with us, Will Broughton, who's a paramedic and a trustee of the College of Paramedics. And we're going to talk to Jeff Chaplin in a second. Jeff got in touch with our programme today. He's the chairman of a private ambulance firm called Human Touch. Welcome, all of you. Alan Howson, what do you think?
It's clearly unacceptable that someone would only have an hour's training to do blue light work. What I do note, though, is that at the time, that particular company were doing PTS work. This was not 999.
PTS?
It's patient transport services. It wasn't 999 support work.
Right.
So the training is very different.
OK, but this was an hour's training for blue light work.
Blue light work, as defined by subcontracted 999 calls, no, it wasn't that work. What he was saying was he was called upon from time to time to deliver patients from one hospital to another, not emergency dedicated patients.
Right, so why would you be having the blue lights on if you... I mean, you might still be having the blue lights on to transfer a patient from one hospital to another. It might also be an emergency.
Yes, and that clearly is unacceptable.
Right.
At the time that the programme was 3 weeks in length, it's now 4 weeks in length. And that's a national reference programme. OK, but these people weren't getting 3 weeks training? Not by the sound of it, no. And that's unacceptable, and we're not here to defend that.
OK. Will Broughton, you're a paramedic, trustee of the College of Paramedics. What do you think?
Very much agree with Alan that what's been presented here is totally unacceptable. We would expect anybody driving an ambulance under emergency conditions to have completed the 4-week nationally approved driver training programme,
which is what the NHS what the NHS does.
Absolutely.
And which this company in Basildon now do as well. From November 2016, they brought the 4 weeks driver training in.
And I should add that private companies who are subcontracted are working to a framework set by the Ambulance Trust, and that will include reference to clinical training and driver training. They will have to provide records that their staff have been trained and certificated to those levels. OK,
let me bring in Jeff then. Jeff Chaplin from Human Touch. Hi, Jeff, can you hear me? Oh, no, maybe we've lost him. We'll try and get him back in a moment, because he is the chairman of a private ambulance company in the east of England, and he very much wants to defend the kind of work that these firms do, many of these firms do, which you would presumably echo, Alan Howson, as boss of the Independent Ambulance Association.
Yes, all our members are regulated and registered with the Care Quality Commission. They're under inspection from the trusts that they work to, and that can include spot inspection, so unannounced visits to audit activity.
I think there is, in terms of the rules of training, it is vague, isn't it? I know the NHS does 4 weeks driver training, but it's not compulsory, is it? That's my understanding, Will. Is that right?
It's not, my understanding is not yet legally required to complete that course. But it is required by the NHS trusts that all of their own employees have completed that programme.
Right, OK. Would you, it's a broad question, Alan Howson, private ambulance firms, are they safe?
Yes, they are safe. They're registered and regulated by the same body that NHS ambulance trusts are regulated by. They're held up to the same criteria. So, yes, they are safe.
Would you agree?
I would, yes. They're, as Alan said, they're all registered with the Care Quality Commission. Those paramedics working in the independent sector are all registered with the Health and Care Professions Council and meet their standards of proficiency, many of whom are members of the College of Paramedics, and then meet their requirements as well.
The other claims that we heard from current and former employees were dirty vehicles, dirty ambulances, and inadequate equipment. Again, I know you'll say that's unacceptable, but it's going on.
Dirty vehicles are a fact of life in ambulance work, whether it's the independent sector or whether it's the NHS. If they have a bad incident and the vehicle needs a complete declean, then it usually is put to one side, whilst a team will address that while another vehicle is readied. They are given time at the beginning of their shift to check their vehicle over, to restock where it's necessary, to check that all the facilities on the vehicle are working. Being candid, if your vehicle is dirty, you would clean it if there was no other vehicle available. It's a rare occurrence, and there is a procedure for reporting such incidents.
Okay, let me